Welcome to our channel. Today, folks, we're diving headfirst into a topic that's about as comfortable as a prostate exam on live television. The 10 countries that could bring the United States to its knees. Now, I know what you're thinking. John, America on its knees? That's unpatriotic. But before you grab your pitchforks and don't tread on me flags, hear me out. The US might be a global superpower, strutting around like a bald eagle at a fireworks show. But even the mightiest eagle needs a place to land. And in today's interconnected world, that landing spot is often provided by other countries. We're talking about nations that the US relies on for everything from iPhones to fighter jets, from the gas in your car to the rare earth minerals in your smartphone. And some of these countries, well, let's just say they're starting to wonder if they shouldn't maybe charge a little more for their services. So buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to explore just how precarious America's position on the global high horse really is. But before we dive in, like this video, and if you're new here, subscribe for more insightful content like this and leave a comment saying I subscribed so I can welcome you personally. First up, we have China. Now, I know, China bashing is about as original as a Nickelback cover band at a college bar. But trust me, this isn't about cheap plastic toys or those I Heart NY shirts that were definitely not made in New York. This, my friends, is about economic power. China, with its billion-plus population and factories pumping out everything from toasters to Tesla parts, is now the world's manufacturing powerhouse. They produce a staggering 28% of global manufacturing output. And if they decided to call in that debt, well, let's just say the US economy would be about as stable as a Jenga tower built by a caffeinated squirrel. The US may like to think it wears the pants in this relationship, but China's got a pretty firm grip on the belt, and they're not afraid to use it. Next up is Russia, a country that's less vodka and bears these days and more cyber attacks and military posturing. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Russia holds a surprising number of cards in this global poker game, and they're not afraid to play dirty. First off, Russia is a major exporter of oil and gas. Remember those soaring gas prices that had everyone considering investing in a donkey? Yeah, Russia had a hand in that. And it's not just fossil fuels. They're also a major supplier of wheat, palladium, and other raw materials that the world relies on. But the real ace up Russia's sleeve, the one that makes everyone a little twitchy, is its nuclear arsenal. Suddenly, the US doesn't seem quite so invincible, does it? Now let's talk about Saudi Arabia, a country that's basically the love child of an oil baron and a Bond villain. They control over 17% of the world's oil reserves, which is a bit like having the keys to the global gas station. But their real power lies in something called the Petrodollar system. See, for decades, the US dollar has been the global reserve currency, the one everyone uses to buy and sell oil. But here's the catch. Saudi Arabia, the kingpin of oil, has started whispering sweet nothings in other currencies' ears. They're increasingly open to trading oil in euros, yuan, even rupees. And if the petrodollar system were to crumble, well, it would be like kicking the legs out from under the US economy. And let's be honest, the Middle East doesn't need any more instability. Next up is India, a country that's often seen as the land of call centers and spicy food. But hold on to your samosas, because India is rapidly becoming a global powerhouse, and the US needs to pay attention. For starters, India has a population of over 1.3 billion people, which means they have a bigger talent pool than a synchronized swimming competition at a water park. And they're putting that talent to good use, becoming a global hub for tech and outsourcing. In fact, India accounts for a whopping 75% of global IT outsourcing. But India's ambitions go far beyond just answering your tech support calls. They're investing heavily in their own tech sector, with companies like Infosys and Wipro giving Silicon Valley a run for its money. The US needs India on its side, not just for its economic muscle, but also to counterbalance China's growing influence. Because in the geopolitical chess game of the 21st century, India is a queen, not a pawn. Now, let's hop across the pond to Germany, a country that's often associated with beer cars and a certain unfortunate chapter in history that we don't talk about at dinner parties. But Germany is also the economic powerhouse of Europe, the engine that keeps the European Union chugging along. They're known for their precision engineering, their commitment to green energy, and their surprisingly good sense of humor, considering they invented the knockwurst. But more importantly, Germany is a key U.S. ally, hosting crucial military bases like Ramstein Air Base, which is basically the FedEx hub for U.S. military operations in Europe and the Middle East. But Germany is also a country with a strong independent streak. They're not afraid to stand up to the U.S., as evidenced by their opposition to the Iraq War. Imagine a world where Germany decides that the U.S. is more trouble than it's worth. So, while we may joke about their love of sauerkraut, the U.S. needs to keep Germany on side. Next, we travel to the land of the rising sun, Japan. Now, some might think of Japan and picture sushi, bullet trains, and those terrifyingly realistic robots that make you question the very nature of existence. But Japan is also a technological powerhouse, producing over 30% of the world's semiconductor materials, those tiny chips that power everything from your smartphone to your refrigerator. But Japan's importance to the U.S. goes beyond just supplying the world with electronics. They're a key ally in the Asia-Pacific region, hosting over 54,000 U.S. troops and acting as a bulwark against China's growing assertiveness. But Japan is also a country with a long memory. Imagine a world where Japan decides that its future lies more with China than with the U.S. The alliance between the two countries is not a given. It's something that needs to be carefully nurtured and maintained. Now let's talk about South Korea, a country often overshadowed by its volatile neighbor to the north. But South Korea is more than just K-pop and kimchi. It's a technological powerhouse and a vital U.S. ally. South Korea leads in memory chip production, with Samsung and SK Hynix dominating the market. These chips are essential for smartphones, laptops, and servers. South Korea's importance to the U.S. goes beyond tech gadgets. They host around 28,000 U.S. troops, staring down North Korea. Imagine if South Korea decided it's had enough of the U.S.-North Korea standoff. While we enjoy their music, food, and tech, the U.S. must remember South Korea is not just a pawn. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're heading down to Brazil, home to the Amazon Rainforest Carnival, and a whole lot of untapped potential. Brazil is more than just samba and soccer. It's a rising power with a growing economy, a major player in the global commodities market, exporting soybeans, coffee, iron ore, and oil. They control significant freshwater reserves and are home to the Amazon rainforest, the Earth's lungs. Brazil is a key player in the BRICS group, alongside Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Imagine Brazil aligning more closely with China or Russia. It would shift the global balance of power. So, while we admire their beaches, music, and soccer, the U.S. must recognize Brazil as a force to be reckoned with. Now let's pop over to the United Kingdom, a country that's often seen as America's closest ally, its partner in crime, its brother from another mother. But like all relationships, even the so-called special relationship between the US and the UK has its ups and downs. The UK has been a steadfast US ally for decades, sharing intelligence, coordinating military operations, and generally having America's back on the world stage. They're part of the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, along with the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, which is basically the world's most exclusive eavesdropping club. But the UK is also a country that's going through an identity crisis. Brexit has left them feeling adrift, unsure of their place in the world. Imagine a world where the UK decides that its future lies more with Europe than with the US. The special relationship is not a guarantee, it's a work in progress that requires constant attention and effort. Last but not least, we arrive in Turkey, a country that's literally at the crossroads of Europe and Asia. Turkey is a country of strategic importance, controlling the Bosporus Strait, which is a vital waterway connecting the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. Turkey is also a NATO member, which means they're technically on the US's side in a fight. They host Incirlik Air Base, which is a key staging ground for US military operations in the Middle East. But Turkey is also a country with its own agenda, and that agenda doesn't always align with Washington's. In recent years, Turkey has been cozying up to Russia, buying weapon systems and cutting deals on energy. Imagine a world where Turkey decides to pivot away from the West and embrace its Eurasian roots. Their loyalty is not guaranteed, and their strategic importance cannot be overstated. So there you have it, folks. 10 countries that could give the US a serious run for its money if they decided to play hardball. The US may like to think of itself as a lone wolf, striding confidently across the world stage, but the reality is far more complicated. As we've seen, the US's global power isn't self-sustaining. It's interwoven with strategic dependencies on these 10 countries. These relationships are the threads that hold the fabric of American power together, and if those threads start to unravel, the whole thing could come undone. Any major shift in these relationships could destabilize everything from the dollar to defense. Maintaining and carefully managing these alliances is crucial to American stability and influence. And if you're new here, subscribe for more insightful content like this, and leave a comment saying, "I subscribed, so I can welcome you personally."